Okay, it looks like people are starting to hop in. Hello, Denny.
Yes. Thank you.
We'll take 10 more seconds and we'll get started. Okay. Well, wonderful. Well, Denny, yeah, this is the how to get started with AI for your business. Denny, I'll let you introduce yourself first.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Mike. So I'm happy to be here, and my name is Denny, and I just moved from Finland to the Bay Area here about 4 months ago. I'll be putting on my hat around AI and have been working around AI for the last 10 years. So happy to jump on this talk and have this conversation with you together, Mike.
Excellent. And I'm Mike Biglan, the CEO of 20 Ideas, a software agency in Oregon that specializes in AI. So we have a team of 60 and started more than 10 years ago now. We create complex platforms from scratch for startups, for existing systems. Yeah, work with a lot of different companies across a lot of different industries. So, yeah, what we're here to talk about. AI is a huge topic. We could talk about many different aspects into the weeds and the details. Right now, today, we're focused on yeah for business for organizations. How should you be approaching AI? There are a variety of organizations out there. Again, that doesn't pull the scope down that much, but there are a lot of types of organizations, a lot of different industries, a lot of different departments, and a lot of different challenges. So we're going to work on generalizing and sort of thinking about the commonality between a lot of different businesses and dig into some of those. So that is what we're focused on today. If you have questions, please just put them in the question and answer section or in chat, and we will either work some of those questions into what we're talking about, or we will talk. We'll save 15 minutes at the end to dive in at that point.
Yeah, that sounds great, Mike. I also look at the sign up list. There's some engineering people and there's also business people in this audience. So I think it's cool that we'll try to start it in a more general way first. I guess the first thing that we want to talk about is AI is happening so fast. There's so many new applications coming out every weeks, every a new iteration, new version coming out so fast every 2, 3 months, even at LLM level. So I guess the first question we want to work on is like, what's cool, what's new, what's the good, cool thing that we're seeing. There's so many happening, so we'll think of maybe we'll just pick a few of those and share that with you guys, right?
Excellent. So one of the things that comes up about sort of what's new is always sort of the difference between gimmicks and business utility. Because you see things, I see things and it goes, wow, this is an amazing tool. And I'll try it out, and 5 minutes later, I'll forget about it. It's really groundbreaking at sort of the at the technical level, and it's the aha moment, but it really doesn't make any changes in terms of businesses. It might be something that kind of leads to that in the future, but nothing sort of groundbreaking with it. So I think one of the lenses to think as you're sort of thinking via business is what are those things that you're seeing, and how would you incorporate them into what you're doing? Where do you spend your time? Are there tools that can help speed up some of those specific pieces? Really highly depends again on the specific business and the specific needs. But there are some AI workhorse tools out there that really change the game in terms of how fast they can move, how they change things. I'll show a few that just sort of mentioned kind of some interesting ones. I'm sure some of these people have tried, they use all the time. Um, they talk about sort of daily active users when it comes to services. Sometimes with some of these tools, it's more like hourly active users. People use these, ChatGPT, all the time throughout the day. Perplexity is one really popular one, sort of the mix of search and chat. Google has sort of done the same thing, but Perplexity is looked at as just doing some pretty impressive things out there. Um, Another one is sort of, and some of these, not just to focus on the tool, but also just sort of the realm, sort of the area that it touches on. So ThoughtSpot is one that is about taking your internal business data and being able to ask natural language queries to get access to charts and different ways to query that information. So it transforms, it understands what data you have behind the scenes and really is looking into how do we provide that information in natural language to people who might not have sort of a depth of structured query analysis and asking that bit of information. Another one is Runway, so video production, video creation. There are a number of things on that, and some continue to get more and more realistic. And again, all of these things will continue to get better, changing sort of the ability for someone to, on a much smaller budget, to just put really creative videos together really quickly. You can imagine even to the level of personalized videos. If you know your audience segments, you don't necessarily need to have your one and only video, but you can do things that are specific more to different geographic locations. Here's the mascot for the local team. Let's do 50 different videos. There are a lot of possibilities on that front. Another one, which many people know, Zoom. Zoom has incorporated their AI. We end up using this all the time. It's pretty impressive, sort of on two fronts. One is it just does sort of the transcript and the storage. So you have all the conversations that you've ever had in one place that you can look at after the fact. But also during a meeting, you can sort of click these quick buttons of catch me up. But what are the action items? What are the topics? And of course, free form, you could just ask any questions. And it does a pretty good job of answering those questions and getting that information. One other Jasper is a document creation in terms of the marketing space. So it's really how do you just again move faster. There are a lot of tools where if it used to take an hour to do something, it can take 10 minutes. And one of the questions again is what are the things that take you time? What are the things that can help you on that? I do have to sort of throw one more in here, DevSwarm. It's something related to the future of coding and software development, and it's something that we are creating, which is coming soon. So, Denny, I guess one of the questions for you is how can companies best make sense of the current AI development?
Yeah, I mean, I was at a conference yesterday, and then one of the speakers said, the rate of change has changed. It used to be fast, now it's even faster. And if you move to the next slide, you will see that there's Mark Turk is the guy who is trying to put together a landscape of all these different new tools that are popping up every day, every week. And good thing about this is he's trying to categorize it into different different IR tool, from sales, marketing, to HR, to all these different functions. And it's a huge map. There's a link there. You can go and look at it. It's interactive. You can click through it. It's just mind-boggling. No, there's no way any normal person can keep up with that. And talk about how you actually then use all that new thing to apply into the business case or your own business case. That's the next challenge, right? And this is why we think that it's very useful to start from bottoms up, top down, in either way in your organization, and looking at the processes itself. What processes can we automate? What processes can we take out even, right? I mean, often this means that you have a new way of doing things. And this is why I think the follow-up conversation that we're going to have is so interesting to see actually how to get started. Here, we just want to give a sort of like a huge overview of what all the different tools out there. Like you mentioned, some of them could be gimmicky. Some of those have been pretty useful. Yeah. So if you move to the next slide. This is one of the one website that I use occasionally. I think it's interesting. It looks like a toy in a way that it's actually create agentic AI that can do different very narrow function. For example, if you want to know who you should be talking to amongst your LinkedIn connection, you can use one of the agent you connect and can find the interesting profile that you should be talking. And go all the way down to what should you be talking about? What subject are you in common? What interests do you have in common, right? They have this website or this marketplace is actually developed by the founder of HubSpot. So the guy has run HubSpot now. They're trying to put agentic AI into HubSpot. But instead of going straight to business, he's actually created a marketplace that allows builders to come and build all different bots, different agents, and all different narrow function that today could not be also integrated in HubSpot. It's interesting to see how this all these different functions start as a toy somehow, then eventually become a serious business tool. So that's interesting to check out. It's free to use, and they give you free credit to try different things. That could be interesting just to also see that. Next one, please. Yeah. So that's the first part. I think the next part is going a bit more in detail what it means if you would like to operationalize the businesses, right? Yeah, that's the part we would like to talk about. I think it's the next slide if you have, Mike. So here we come back to the boring stats. This is done by McKinsey about end of last year. And the idea here is to look at, where are the actually value that company has unlocked using AI. And this is the rank from the highest to the lowest. Supply seems like an obvious thing that AI could help. No, come next to that is also all around operations, automations, right? You have to think of it from automation perspective. And then you have HR, you have sales. So these are just, again, a survey that is done with about 1,500 companies globally. It's an indication, right? Again, it's very different if you are running big multinationals or if you're running a small, right? But the idea here is really just to give an indication where it could be done. If you move to the next slide, Mike, please. So what we see, or what I've seen often when I work with companies, is we often start looking at automation of processes, existing processes. How can we automate those? How can we use AI to automate those? And hence, gain this productivity gain. And what happens after that is that often people just look at the processes without really asking, do we even need this workflow now that if we can automate those? And hence, this is the step change of productivity gain, saving time, saving resources to do something else, right? Now you have more time to do something else, so you can start getting creative. So what often happens is that people start then looking at how can I then eventually improve customer experience for my customers. Now that I have more resources, more time gain, what can I do to actually to improve experience? And this is where the creativity comes in, and you can even start thinking about building new services, new products, AI, or any services that you could build on. So these are the loop that we keep seeing company going through, that starting from very concrete workflow automation process improvement, and then eventually questioning, do we even need that? And if we don't,
Yeah.
what do we do differently, right? So that's what I will often see. And this is an interesting process to think through any process that you have today function. I think that's a good start point.
Yeah. I often think for myself of what are the things that I do, and are there certain ones I can just not do, or either can I use AI? What are the ways? Because there's always going to be more time to spend on other things, and there's plenty of things on that front.
Yeah. And Mike, in from the work that you do with companies, do you have any particular function that you see that sort of like what people start with first often, or is there anything that you can share a bit about those?
Yeah. So I think of companies and organizations, there's sort of different categories of where people are focused. So one is cost reduction, so the operations side. How do they do things more quickly, cheaply? How do they, as you mentioned, not have to do things at all? The second part is increasing more on the revenue side. That can be on the marketing and sales side. It can be scale that's really sort of bringing in more. And the third one sort of ties in with that, which is creating a better product, creating better customer experience, user experience, whatever it is to sort of provide more value. Oftentimes that looks like incorporating AI into that end product to just sort of make it something more valuable. Um, and all of these have benefits, but it does take that investment and intentionality to figure out what area you want to focus on. And it's extremely specific to the company in terms of where those areas are. And the first question is just to sort of take a step back and say, what are these different areas? Is it manufacturing? Is it on the marketing side? Is that content creation or A/B testing automation? It's on the sales side, and it can be lead scoring, it can be email drafting. Is it going to be on the operations side? Be process automation, anomaly detection, HR, so resume filtering, internal QA assistance. There's a lot of tools out there that you kind of have the, an example is just the wealth of information. Some companies, decades old, have all these PDFs, all this content information, and it's not very hard to be able to put that into a resource where you have essentially the ability to talk to an expert that can tell you any information about those systems that you want. Sometimes it's unstructured, sometimes it's more structured. Yeah, another channel, customer support, so chatbots, response generation. But really, you can dive into the details of any company and industry and see what are the places. And we're not talking about sort of like, hey, this is a 10% or 20% addition. In some of these cases, it's really these can be 2x, 10x, 100x faster, cheaper, just because it really changes the equation completely. So I think the next sort of piece is about the future of AI, and I guess one of the questions I would ask you is because this comes up a lot. Um, we had blockchain, we had other technologies where you have sort of highs and lows, and it feels like it's hype. No, it's the next thing. It's everything. Your thoughts on is AI hype? Where is it leading us? Age,
Yeah,
um, AGI. What does it mean for companies?
sure. I think, the conference I went yesterday, there was a lot of talk about this question too. So is it a hype, right? Where we're going to get to anytime soon? And I think a lot of the forward-looking companies have taken all in from, trying to be AI first thinking. If you can automate that process, the question then comes, do you even need to automate it completely, right? So which means it will be autonomous AI running it, right?
Yep.
Then you take the human in the loop or human less in the loop out. So, and that we see also from the venture landscape. The scrambling to understand what it means. We have a talk yesterday from a company who managed to turn 40 million MRR in 6 months. It's like mind-boggling in 6 months, right? But it didn't happen overnight. The company existed for 7 years, and then they switch over to this particular product line or services, and then that's where you hit the sweet spot. So these are the crazy number you see at the company that's pushing the edge. And I think for it is a step change to use AI to do things that you can never imagine. And it also means that you need to think of it differently. It's not just about optimization. Optimization, of course, is the low-hanging fruit that we should all start. But the question after that is like, what could this change? Today I have this power that I could have never had before. And with this thing that I could do, what else could I do? Right?
Yeah.
So I think that's the mind shift that is a bit companies who are already in business for, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 years to have this suddenly shift. So some people compare it to, it's like from internet time to mobile first, and then now to AI first, right? How that shift and who is going to be the winner, who's going to be the loser, and how can we all jump on this bandwagon. So
Yeah.
for me, it's definitely a hype for certain type of features, but it's not a hype if it's going to be creating, it is already creating real value, business value.
Yep.
So, in a simplistic thinking, AI is just a continuation of the digitalization of companies, right? Because we have processes that used to be very manual, and then we digitalize it. We know whether that's document, whether that is all digital, and then from digitalization, at the end, we realize it's just and basically it's all about data, right? Information. So you have a data layer, and this data layer will eventually continue to be there. And that AI change is adding a service layer on top of all this data, transforming this data into something else, from a customer contact into an invoice, right? This transformation of that data becoming invoice, and from invoice to become a payable, non-payable, receivable, bank. And these are all transformation of data format. And if you think of it that way, then your company is just generating tons of data by your customers, and all this is this adding this layer of services that can be run by AI, and that's how a digital company will become purely a digital asset, like any company will be. Your finance, your HR, all this process will be digital, and then the question is how can you then orchestrate all this workflow together.
Yep.
So that's,
And
yeah, go ahead.
and I know something that's come up a lot, and this is for many, many years, is sort of the data footprint of a company. And the larger the company, you'd assume that sort of, oh, large companies, they have everything figured out on that front. And most companies I've ever worked with, the layer is a mess. And which a lot of these AI tools and foundation, all these AI capabilities are built on sort of the how the data layer and the APIs between them are built with each other.
Exactly.
Um,
Well said. And
yeah,
to your point, I was so surprised at a conference yesterday. Uh, there was a company that provides data infrastructure to OpenAI and Anthropic. They didn't build it themselves. They actually got this additional extra, I mean, external company that provide all this infrastructure for them to just to be able. Now, what they do is the guy was saying, the founder was saying, no, basically we just duplicate all the data they are generating, and then so we create a whole new layer infrastructure behind it on parallel, so they can unlock all this value. Just like, like,
yeah,
but to your
yeah.
point, yeah, let's move on then next.
Excellent. So yeah, one of the things I think about, in terms of again, this future of AI is, yeah, why should any company use it? It kind of comes to like, is this hype? Is this something to
Yeah,
invest in? And you look at history. I always love the history of innovation and these quantum leaps in technology, and AI is, computers, internet. AI is one of those in my mind because it really changes the equation on a lot of different fronts, and it's not just one area, but it really comes to the physicality, self-driving cars. It comes to things that are on the internet and technology. It comes to mimicking, just sort of thinking and reasoning, and information synthesis, and it is a large umbrella, but there are a lot of places out there. And of course, all of this depends on the specifics.
yeah,
Should a company use? There's a lot of hype out there. So to me, the biggest thing is trying to notice and avoid things that are the hype, and really thinking about business value. Like, what are you delivering? How is the way that you function internally? What does that look like? And maybe there's places in here that the AI is not to the quality you need for that particular thing yet, but AI is only getting better. It's getting better quickly. We're doing things in the future of software development, and that space is moving. Every few weeks there's some new, revolutionary thing that's coming out in that area. And to try to keep on it, yeah, you have to be paying attention. You have to be sort of noticing that. Um, yeah, go ahead.
yeah. The question to you then, and why now? Why should I jump in now? There's always next new thing coming up. I mean, I hear that sometimes people ask that question, why now?
Yeah.
Why should I be jumping first?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's the on the flip side, the what if you don't go now? Because it's really easy to get into your patterns and habits. People are really busy just keeping everything running, and it takes an investment. It takes a level of intentionality to say, hey, we're going to push ourselves out of our comfort zone to do these other things. And the big question is, if you see that history of innovation, you see other small companies with and there's been people at Sam Altman saying things like this of companies with 5 or 10 people that are going to outpace and sort of run circles around companies that have hundreds, if not thousands, of people, because they've found ways of going, hey, we don't need this department, we don't need this. And when it comes to customers and people choosing where to go, they say, hey, this is providing me the same quality, and it's different. Some large companies will find that they suddenly can't compete, and it will be very quick. And you're already seeing that in some cases, in different industries, and some are harder to disrupt, but every industry has this coming. So it's sort of the why do it now? Yeah,
Yeah.
it's here. It's at your doorstep no matter what.
Yeah, it's clear. It's clear. I think it's going so fast that if you're not on board, then somebody else will be on board and you'll be left behind. And that's just crazy.
Yep.
Um, so best practices for AI implementation, I guess that's what, we both have worked in AI projects, helping companies to set it up. What are some of the typical challenges that you see from the work that you've done?
Yeah. I think, one of the things that comes up is people not understanding their own business. Really sort of the specifics of it. What are they trying to solve? What are you trying to solve? What are your goals? And sometimes that comes to what are the ways that your business operates? What are those current flows? There are a lot of workflows, there are a lot of steps in those workflows. What does that look like? Do you have a map to kind of think through? Here's all those different workflows that your company has. The second one is data. We kind of talked about it before. The value of understanding that data. What do you have decades of information? Is it PDFs? Is it unstructured? Is it structured information in data systems? Are you leveraging it and using it? And then the question that kind of combines it in my mind is if you were able to hire a team of human experts that could then understand these workflows and have access to these data, what could they do? What would you want them to do? And is there sort of the comparable AI experts that can leverage and work with those workflows and data to really give you a different way of doing things? And it really comes down to sort of understanding one's business because it's easy to get overwhelmed with AI and say, oh, it can do everything. But when it comes down to it, knowing sort of what some of those two tools are. The second piece that I see is about sort of it comes down to the business culture, the culture of AI. Are you supporting your team, investing research, R&D? Are you looking into tools? Are you saying, hey, what we're doing is not good enough? Let's try things out. Maybe we're going to make mistakes. Maybe we're going to find things that are, duds and spend money in the wrong direction. But are we trying different things out? And then are we communicating that to each other? And it's really that culture of innovation, culture of AI. Because yeah, none of us are going to learn every tool ourselves. It's going to be we have our team looking at different tools for different things and then synthesizing and pulling that information back. So that's sort of the summary on that. What examples you mentioned Europe? What examples have you seen in industries in Europe?
Yeah, definitely. I think what I've seen also is in this, well, how companies start doing the idea is to approach top down or bottoms up, right? Top down management have a view, leader has a view, and then try to work it through the organization. Or bottoms up, people who are doing the work has an opinion and view how they could do it differently. I think there's two ways to eventually meet in the middle. And in that term, what I see also challenges also not only within the company, but also how the company operate as traditional business, value creation of buying and selling to your customers, and then into a more ecosystem thinking that instead of just worrying about how do I better sell to my customer, it's also how do I actually create value for the whole in value chain, from my partners, supplier, provider to all customers. So mind shift from a pipeline business into a platform business is a big shift. That's hard to jump to. And if we talk about data economy, you talk about data very quickly, we get into the ecosystem economy, platform economy. And in this, some of the project that I work in Europe is all about building this ecosystem ecosystem economy. And one example is in the automotive industries. You have BMW, Mercedes, these are all competing companies. They come together because they understood that actually it's much more bigger than them to build this data infrastructure that can across the whole value chain of their value chain, supply chain in this case, right? This is a good example on how even competition come together and try to build this value creation together by sharing data and then create new services or AI services on top of the data. So that's one example. You have also the maritime industries where you have port, ship, cargo owners. They are all three different entities coming together to share data and build new services to be able to actually how fast a ship can actually arrive in the port and how fast they can get out so they can actually plan the cargo loading and unloading better. So that's all tons of those examples like that. Companies between themselves coming together and work to find a solution that alone they cannot solve. And this is about value creation, then value creation not only within the company, but outside of the company too. And having a way to capture that value back as services and use it for the sector. So those are a few ideas, a few examples in Europe and the one that I've got involved with too.
Excellent.
All right. So the example. The links are all there. We will share the slide deck after this, I guess, and then people can access that and look at it in their time. Um,
Excellent.
so, so what is this AI blueprint about then, right? So this service that we are hoping to, could you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's easy to talk high level about AI and this all day. When it comes to specifics, really, it's about an individual organization. It's about their data. It's about their internal processes. There is not a one size fits all, even in industries, even in departments. So it's really that what is there's the wealth of tools out there, and what specific things could be able to be helpful. How to first is how to get your understand your data that you have all across your organization and get that data house in order. I've seen many different times where not even sort of the understanding of what data is out there, and just sort of going through a process of getting those data in order to some degree, so people understand what multiple people in the organization understand what data are out there. They don't need to have access to every bit. They need to know who to talk to find certain things and what structure it's in. That second piece is really understanding, again, really digging into that specific organization's processes, to a granular level enough that it kind of think through, how would AI help with this step of this? Could it just remove this step? Could it? What are the ways? But yeah, that first part is stepping back and just identifying, like, what do we do? How do we do it? Who sends what to who? And sometimes there's non-AI solutions where you go, oh, wait, why are we doing it that way? Is there a three-step thing we can do here instead of six, and we can move faster? Yeah, and sometimes custom AI is the right answer. There are a lot of tools out there, but sometimes it's prepackaged isn't good enough, and you want to do something that's highly custom. And that's something that we've also done a lot of in terms of custom software and integrating and understanding how to work with LLMs, the large language models, how to incorporate them, how to build those tools in. So I guess, yeah, question for you is, yeah, working with businesses, where have you found that they've needed help from an outside perspective?
Yeah, you know, on top of what you just said, I think what you said is very spot on, especially within the organization itself, within the company itself, to understand all that different thing. But what I often see is also that it's a challenge for them to map value chain outside of the company, beyond that, and how actually creating value for who are the partners, and how can it eventually that capture that value and bring it back to the network. I think that's the key challenge I often see. It's hard for a company to think outside of that box, and that's why oversight is always interesting and useful to help leaders to think through that process. Besides what you described in the company itself. So yeah, so that's sort of what I've seen. So I think that's sort of like more or less talk through, right, Mike?
Yeah. And yeah, we have one question that's popped up, which is it wise to wait for the landscape to settle down before investing into AI tools?
It's a good question, right? Do you want to take that, Mike?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it ties to what we were talking about a little bit ago of yeah, wait and see what happens. There are a lot of tools. There's 20 tools now today, and in a year is there going to be the two tools, and you're not going down paths that are just going to yeah, waste of time, and the tool goes away, and now you find that there's a much better tool. Um, I think I approach a lot of these things very contextually of what is the context of that business. Some businesses are rapidly moving, changing. The industry is changing. Other ones are have a little bit more time. Um, and yeah, it can be. I personally like to invest and push the envelope and see what tools are helpful on that front. I think at the very least, it's good to understand what the tools are, and to make sure that you and your team are spending time to understand a little bit more about what those tools are, what the benefits are, and maybe you find one, you say, hey, you know, how hard is it to let's try the free trial with it. Let's try this one out, because then we at least have a better mental model for how that works and how that could work. So even if we don't end up using it, maybe we sort of approach a different problem in the future and we say, hey, that tool we looked at 6 months ago, that could actually be really, really helpful on that front. How would we use that? Another sort of area, I sort of mentioned tools a lot, is just sort of how to use ChatGPT or any of the LLMs to ask questions. And you've seen sort of there are a lot of prompts out there where sometimes the question is like, what questions should we be even asking?
Yeah.
Sometimes that's non-trivial of understanding what does that look like of yeah there are a number of thought leaders out there that do a lot of posting of like, hey, here's 10 different prompts that you could use with chat, and you look at them and you go, oh, I never thought of asking that question. Wow, that's really insightful. And I'll do things all the time where I'll be thinking of just brainstorming and ideating on go-to-market strategies or taglines or areas where I want to learn something new about quantum computing, and it can go pretty high level depth of sort of the mechanics and the specifics of that. So yeah, there's the voice, like with ChatGPT, there's the voice chat, or there's just using it as text, and they give very different responses. If you're doing it via voice, it's much sort of shorter responses. But if you're in the car, you can have these conversations where it's just sort of brainstorming with an expert in that space, more conversational style.
Yeah, I think well said. I think from that question, what I take away is that you have to start from knowing what value you need to create or you want to create from your processes, and then see what tools sort of like fix that part of it. That's one way of looking at it, and I think another way is having tools doing new things a new way, right? That's also things. So there's two. I think that question sort of like is two-sided way of looking at it. You could actually analyze it from two different perspectives. And also I feel that at today's change rate, waiting is not always a good option. Like 2 months ago, before OpenAI integrate ChatGPT with Shopify, suddenly you can just do your e-commerce chatting, right? And if you have not have even have an e-commerce shop yet, depending if you're selling stuff, then suddenly you can just have it like, on your fingertip. So that's
Yeah,
how fast it goes, right? Just like on and off. I think that's just like changing all the landscape of e-commerce and opening up new channel. And for those companies who are offering e-commerce services, building platform of e-commerce platform, then the question is, okay, how can you be relevant still, right? So
yeah,
boom. So that's interesting to see, how fast it changed.
yeah.
Yeah, there's another one. The question pops up. Uh,
Yeah,
what do you think of the evolution of no-code platform with AI platforms and how that can allow non-dev to quickly prototype product ideas? Yeah, this is not a vibe coding question. I like that. I like that. I think that's great.
yeah,
I can take it, and I'll let you have what you think too, Mike. Um, I was one of the numbers that I heard from the conference list yesterday. There's about 30 million software developer out there. Now, this is from a VC. He said there's 30 million developer out there. Suddenly, with all this no code, there's 8 billion people who can code, right? Just of course, the 8 billion, and not everybody will code, but it is then enabling anyone who has an idea to be able to code it out. So it's both wonderful opportunity, but also chaotic, right? Any ideas, some ideas should not be coded, right? But now it's so easy to code, you just code whatever the first thing that comes to your mind, which means there will be even more code waste. But for those who ideas that have gone through iteration and testing and eventually have real traction, that's where the value comes in, I think. So it's wonderful time we are in. That's my take.
yeah,
Like,
yeah. No, it's amazing how quickly you can do things. Yeah, I do kind of, people have labeled it vibe coding. Um, I think it's wonderful to be able to put something together like that, um, especially for prototypes. So I was at the AI Dev conference a few months ago, and Andrew Ng mentioned sort of, hey, AI has allowed production code to go about 20%, maybe 40%, 50% faster. But vibe coding allows you to do 10x faster with prototypes, and some of it's not even vibe coding, but just just raw coding. You can just do things really quickly.
Yeah.
The code itself is not, it's this is usually for, it's a website. It feels on the gimmicky side. I should say there's a gimmick piece of it. So it's like, wow, that's really quick. But I want to make these changes, and it doesn't really allow you to have that kind of that conversation, that human in the loop to really evolve it in the direction that you want. Um, and so, but there is that utility if you need something that's a rapid prototype and you want to be able to work with it. That type of thing is great. Um, and yeah, we're sort of what we're working on in terms of the future of software development is more from the top down, instead of sort of vibe coding kind of coming from the bottom and just saying like, hey, let's throw a few sentences and just make this thing. It's more, how do you really 3, 4, 5x what a senior production developer can do? How do they orchestrate? How do they work with agents to make that happen? So yeah, we think quite a bit about what the state of yeah, evolving no code looks like.
Yeah, I think there's of course definitely production grade versus just prototyping grade. I think that's spot on. What I heard yesterday too, Microsoft expect that today, already today, they estimate 30% of their code are AI generated. Not without human in the loop. They are all through senior developers, right?
Yeah.
Using AI tool to enhance that coding, whether it's faster, whether it's different, it's better in that way. So that's interesting to see how all these things are dynamically moving.
Yeah. That human in the loop is really one thing that comes up quite a bit. There are a lot of things out there where it feels like AI is it just does something magically. You ask it to do it and it does it, and that's the experience. The human in the loop allows it to for you to guide it and it go different directions. You need to work with it, so it's more that in tandem how that works.
There's another question that pops up, Mike. It says, will the quality of AI output degrade as AI takes over human content production? Mm,
So yeah, this is a topic that has come up a lot. It's the snake eating its own tail. It's the concern of, hey, we kind of have gotten to the point where we have all this information and content out there that have trained models, but when you start accidentally or purposely adding synthetic content into the mix, it's not going to be training the models any better and can actually lead things in bad directions. And so now the question is, yeah, is what does it look like? Will it degrade? I think you will see that in some cases, though. I think one of the questions is, will it improve? Will it continue to improve? And it does feel like LLMs have kind of hit that plateau, and so now it's sort of looking to other methodologies to be able to use LLMs that have been trained on so much content. But yeah, there is that risk, that danger of when you have synthetic data that changes the quality, and what metrics some of these LLM providers are using to prevent against that and to identify it.
yeah, well said. This is also can be edged to conversation around AGI, yeah, artificial general intelligence, whether then the system can evaluate if it's better or worse, right? How is it knows that it's getting better or worse, right? I think
Yeah.
that's an excellent conversation. We can go very long. But good point on that, Mike. There's another one that comes up, another question. I think this important one. It says, how do organizations manage human pushback or fear about the in the AI future? Assume losing the work to AI, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's a very legitimate one. And it ties into what sort of our expectations of on the governance and government side of um, are there safety nets? Are there ways? How does this evolve at sort of the more societal level? Because yeah, there are very legitimate fears about where things go if AI takes over large industries. And on the one side, you have people that say, just like always, the more things that happen here, we will just have jobs in other places.
Yeah.
On this, on the flip side, there's a big concern that sometimes those jobs or that money is going just even more so to the very largest of companies and making them bigger, and it's leaving other people out of the equation. Large masses of people that again don't have jobs or might have jobs that aren't as aren't in that sort of that creative space. And I think that's a legitimate way. Yeah, I mean, it is AI is sort of the technology is how it works, and what's happening is just so amazing on that front.
Well said. We are nearly out of time, and maybe just last question to you, Mike. For those who are interested to know a bit more about the AI blueprint service, where should they go? What should they do?
Yeah, feel free to go to 20 ideas and reach out on there, or just send me an email at mike@20ideas.com, and happy to happy to get back to you. Denny, I can follow up. Happy to schedule a Zoom.
All right.
Excellent.
Okay, I think that's what we have for today. Thank you for this session, Mike. Thank you.
Yeah, wonderful.
Those who are
Thank
interested,
you, Denny.
there's a link that just been shared on the chat too, so you can get that too.
Oh, perfect. Excellent.
Thank you,
Yeah,
people, for your time and for this session. So
yeah.
we'll catch soon.
Thank you, Denny. Appreciate it. Thank you, Jana.